Chapter 8: How to Make Good Television Commercials. The few seconds of an advertising commercial, says Stanhope Shelton, will fit into a pillbox 2.5 inches in diameter. This tiny pillbox full represents several weeks of concentrated effort on the part of 30 people. It can make the difference between profit and loss. I have found that it is easier to double the selling power of a commercial than to double the audience of a program. This may come as news to the Hollywood hidalgos who produce the programs and look down their noses at us obscure copywriters who write the commercials. The purpose of a commercial is not to entertain the viewer but to sell him. Horace Schwerin reports that there is no correlation between people liking commercials and being sold by, but this does not mean that your commercials should be deliberately bad-mannered. On the contrary, there is reason to believe that it pays to make them human and friendly, if you can do so without being unctuous. In the early days of television, I made the mistake of relying on words to do the selling. I had been accustomed to radio where there are no pictures. I now know that in television you must make your pictures tell the story. What you show is more important than what you say. Words and pictures must march together, reinforcing each other. The only function of the words is to explain what the pictures are showing. Dr. Gallup reports that if you say something which you don't also illustrate, the viewer immediately forgets it. I conclude that if you don't show it, there is no point in saying it. Try running your commercial with the sound turned off. If it doesn't sell without sound, it is useless. Most commercials befuddle the viewer by drowning him in logorrhea, a torrent of words. I advise you to restrict yourself to 90 words a minute. It is true that you can deliver somewhat more selling points in a television commercial than in a printed advertisement, but the most effective commercials are built around only 1 or 2 points, simply stated. A hodgepodge of many points leaves the viewer unmoved. That is why commercials should never be created in committee. Compromise has no place in advertising. Whatever you do, go the whole hog. When you advertise in magazines and newspapers, you must start by attracting the reader's attention. But in television, the viewer is already attending. Your problem is not to frighten her away. It is fatal to warn her that she is about to hear a friendly word from our sponsor. Her bladder will react to the stimulus as Pavlov's dog reacted to the sound of a bell. She will leave the room. The purpose of most commercials is to deliver your selling promise in a way the viewer will remember next time she goes shopping. I therefore advise you to repeat your promise at least twice in every commercial, to illustrate it pictorially, and to print it on the screen as a title or super. The average consumer, poor dear, is now subjected to 10,000 commercials a year. Make sure that she knows the name of the product being advertised in your commercial. Repeat it ad nauseum throughout. Show it in at least one title. And show her the package which you want her to recognize in the store. Make your product the hero of the commercial, as it is the hero of our famous commercial for Maxwell House coffee. Just a coffee pot and a cup of coffee. Good to the last drop. I did not invent this slogan. Theodore Roosevelt did. In television advertising, you have exactly 58 seconds to make your sale, and your client is paying $500 a second. Don't mess about with irrelevant lead-ins. Start selling in your first frame and never stop selling until the last. For products which lend themselves to selling by demonstration, e.g., cooking ingredients, makeup, and sinus remedies, television is the most powerful advertising medium ever invented. Success in using it depends more than anything else on your ingenuity in devising believable demonstrations. The publicity which has attended some of the Federal Trade Commission's indictments has made the American public suspicious of trickery. Dr. Gallup is a fountain of useful information on how people react to different kinds of commercials. He tells us that commercials which start by setting up a problem, then wheel up your product to solve the problem, then prove the solution by demonstration, sell 4 times as many people as commercials which merely preach about the product. Dr. Gallup also reports that commercials with a strong element of news are particularly effective, so you should squeeze every drop of news value out of the material available for your commercials. But sometimes, alas, there isn't any news. Your product may have been on the market for generations, and there may have been no significant improvement in its formula. Some products cannot be presented as the solution to any problem, Some do not lend themselves to demonstration. What do you do when these surefire gambits are denied to you? Do you give up? Not necessarily. There is another gambit available which can move mountains: emotion and mood. It is a difficult gambit to use without inducing derision in the viewer, but it has been used with consummate success in Europe, notably by Mather and Crowther in their commercials for Player cigarettes. The average consumer now sees 900 commercials a month, and most of them slide off her memory like water off a duck's back. For this reason, you should give your commercials a touch of singularity, a burr that will make them stick in the viewer's mind. But be very careful how you do this. The viewer is apt to remember your burr but forget your selling promise. At 2 o'clock one morning, I awoke from a troubled sleep with such a burr in my mind and wrote it down. Open the Pep Peridge Farm commercials by having Titus Moody drive a baker's wagon with a team of horses along a country lane. It worked. Don't sing your selling message. Selling is a serious business. How would you react if you went into a Sears store to buy a frying pan and the salesman started singing jingles at you? Candor compels me to admit that I have no conclusive research to support my view that jingles are less persuasive than the spoken word. It is based on the difficulty I always experience in hearing the words in jingles, and on my experience as a door-to-door salesman. I never sang to my prospects. The advertisers who believe in the selling power of jingles have never had to sell anything. This prejudice of mine is not shared by all my partners. When I go on vacation, they occasionally have time to foist a jingle on one of our clients, and at least one of their jingles made the welkin ring. This exception proves my rule. The screens in movie theaters are 40 feet wide, which is big enough for crowd scenes and long-distance shots. But the television screen is less than 2 feet wide, which is not big enough for Ben-Hur. I advise you to use nothing but extreme close-ups in television commercials. Avoid hackneyed situations, delighted drinkers, ecstatic eaters, families exhibiting togetherness, and all the other clichés of poor old Madison Avenue. They do not increase the consumer's interest in buying your product. That's it for today. If you enjoyed this video, you might want to check our link in the description, where you'll find many other fundamental advertising books in different languages. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more persuasion and marketing-related content. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again in the next video.